Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd, ikhwatul Islam, ya ibadallah. This particular video specifically is directed to Black American Muslims. And I'll read a comment that's left on a video that I did titled Concerning Reza Islam's Speech on the Fallen State. And you'll understand why this is being directed to Black American Muslims specifically, although all Muslims can benefit from it, but it's being directed to us specifically. The comment states, "Yo, you're so steeped into Arabism. It's a shame you are not Afrocentric. Islam is anti-black, so go worship your racist God, Allah. Wa'iyadhu billah." This right here, Allah mustaan. So he continues, "Have fun before the white man enslaved Africans and imposed Islam. Before the white man enslaved Africans and imposed Islam, the white man followed up with the transatlantic slave trade. Study history and find out what the desert rats did when they crossed the Red Sea and made slaves of Africans, giving rise to the Moors. This is history, fact, not philosophy, theory, abstract BS to the end of his stupidity." And of course, he refers to the superior Islamic creed and or theology that I was stating when bringing a comparison between what the NOI believe and what we as Muslims believe. He's referring to that as philosophy and or theory. But anyway, reading this particular statement, then I believe it becomes crystal clear why I'm directing this to Black American Muslims, those who are in the Black community, here in America, and that mix with the varying peoples that have varying different ideologies within the community. And believe me when I say there are varying ideologies within the Black community, and just about all of them have hatred for al-Islam. Just about all of them have hatred for al-Islam, and I'm pretty sure there are Muslims that have experienced this type of rhetoric, this type of argumentation against Deen Allah, the religion of Allah. And so first off, I want to start this off by pointing out the fact that this guy seems to conflate ethnicity with religion. Because he said I'm steeped into Arabism, and saying it's a shame that I'm not Afrocentric, but then he goes and says Islam is anti-black. So I'm steeped in Arabism and upon a way that's anti-black, right? First and foremost, the Arab is not a race, it's a ethnicity. Ethnicity refers to the customs or culture of a people. And so, the language that they speak, the types of food that they eat, the way that they dress, the value system, meaning that their behavioral, what is considered to be acceptable in their behavior, meaning their manners and their etiquette. What's considered to be negative as it relates to etiquette and things of that nature. All of this is considered to be culture. Race, however, deals with your outward appearance. And so, like for instance, I'm a black man. That's dealing with my outward appearance. Black refers to, in Western sense, people of brown skin, regardless of what variation of brown you may be on the color spectrum, from the lightest shade of brown to the darkest that we refer to as jet black or blue black here in the US. That's what's intended by black people. And so he's referring to me being steeped in Arabism, and then claiming, I guess because I'm Muslim, but then claiming that Islam is anti-black. So he conflates these two things, and this is based off his ignorance and his stupidity as it relates to the differentiation between race and ethnicity. Why is this important? Because when you look into the Arab, there are black Arabs. There are black Arabs. How do I know? Because I actually have been to the Arabian Peninsula. This is how I know this, right? In Yemen, you have areas that are predominantly black. Hudaydah, Hadramaut, Aden. You go into some of these areas, these men, these people will be considered black if they were here in the U.S. So much that I was in an area called Lahaj. And as we were driving through this area, I'm seeing nothing but black people around. And so I had to ask the driver, I said, are these Yemenis? And the driver, he said, Naam, or yes, they are Yemenis. And he started naming the tribes. They were all black. But they're considered Arabs. And so this is what needs to be understood. This is what this fool who wrote this doesn't understand, obviously. I'll give you a simple example of Latinos. You have in the Latin world, when we're dealing with Central and South America, you have descendants of slaves that were sat there 500 or 600 years ago. But they will be considered Latinos and Latinas at this point. Why? Because that's their culture. They eat tacos. They speak Spanish. They dress the way everybody else dress from what's customary amongst them. The overwhelming majority of them are Catholics, and thus forth and so on. They're Latinos. But when it comes to their race or their outward appearance, they're clearly black. That's why they're referred to as Afro-Latinos. So this is the first ignorance from this person, that he conflates the two. He conflates race with ethnicity. Obviously, he doesn't know the difference between the two, right? And that illustrates his own ignorance. But so, like I said, when you go to the Arabian Peninsula, you find large groups of people in certain areas being black. In some cases, like when I met an Omani when I was in Qatar, this guy was jet black, darker than me by far, right? But he's an Arab. He dressed like they dress. He eats what they eat. He speaks the language that they speak, meaning Arabic, and thus forth and so on. So to conflate the two is downright ignorant, because you have many black Arabs that exist still today. All right. So that's the first point that I want to make when dealing with this particular issue, because it illustrates the stupidity of this individual. Second, so when looking at this issue, we want to take a look at some definitions. What's intended by Afrocentrism? What's intended by Arabism? And I believe he really means Pan-Arabism, but Allah knows best. But when we look at Pan-Africanism basically is a focus on or influenced by Africa or cultures of African origin. So again, a focus on or influence by Africa or cultures of African origin. Afrocentric ideas, attitudes, or emphasis. Now, stop right there, because this guy is saying I should be Afrocentric, right? And there are people within the black community that are pro-black. I don't know if they would consider themselves Afrocentric, but they definitely put this overemphasis into Egypt. So much so, or in so much, that they are now Amun-Ra Imhotep worshippers, following behind the ancient Egyptian culture, right? These types of people, one of them, like Saw Netter, they state that the Arabian Peninsula is Africa. The Arabian Peninsula is Africa. This is what they state. This is what people, I don't know if they will identify as Afrocentric, but their focus is based on Africa and African studies and like this. So by definition, they would be Afrocentric, at least by this definition. They claim that Arabia or the Arabian Peninsula is Africa. And one of the arguments that's made is, if it's the Middle East, then where's the Middle West? Where's the Middle South? Where's the Middle North? And so they draw the conclusion that this term Middle East is just that, a term that was invented by Europeans to separate the Arabian Peninsula from Africa in terms of geography. But in reality, it's all the same thing. This is what they say. And of course, we know that the Suez Canal didn't always exist. You know, it was, I think in the late 1800s is when that came about. And even some Hebrew Israelites, I don't want to say all Hebrew Israelites say this, but I know there is some Hebrew Israelites that say the exact same thing. They say that what is commonly referred to as the Jewish state today, this is not the Middle East, this is Africa. And there are videos of them saying this and presenting their arguments for that. So the main point that I'm making is, this person says I should be Afrocentric and I'm upon Arabism, and people that would probably be classified as being Afrocentric identify the Arabian Peninsula as Africa. But again, this person doesn't realize that being an Arab or Arab is just being from a particular ethnic group. And Africa has hundreds, rather thousands of ethnic groups. The culture of the West African is not the same as the culture of the East African, although they're all the same race. They have the same, similar to the same facial features. But ethnicities are different. Tribes are different. Customs and practices are different. Food that they eat, the food of East Africa is different from the food of West Africa. The East Africans, the Ethiopians, and the Somalis aren't eating the same dishes that the Wolof in Nigeria or Ivory Coast or whatever the case may be. They're not eating the same dishes that they're eating. The ethnicities are different. The ethnicities are different. This is an important point to prove this particular person's ignorance as it relates to what he's talking about, right? Now, Mulafi Asante, the person who is considered or dubbed the founder of Afrocentrism, he stated, and he's the chair of the Department of African American Studies at the University at Temple University in Philadelphia. When he was being interviewed, he stated about Afrocentrism. He said Afrocentrism is a paradigm, an orientation toward data, a perspective that says that African people are subjects rather than objects, and that in order to understand narratives of African history, culture, social institutions, you must allow Africans to see themselves as actors rather on the margins of Europe or the margins of Arab culture or the margins of Asian culture. Now, for some people, they may be scratching their head and wondering what's intended by this. But he gives an example. It's clear what he's saying, but he gives an example in order for this to become even more clearer, right? And so he gives the example of the Victoria Falls. Now, the Victoria Falls is a waterfall between Zimbabwe and Zambia. And so he stated that when the European explorer David Livingstone, when he discovered this waterfall, he named it Victoria Falls. And now, everywhere you go, no matter what part of the world that you're in, you look at the maps, and when this particular body of water is talked about, it's talked about with that name, Victoria Falls, because this European explorer stamped that name on it And now that is what is referred to by the dominant world. But he states that amongst the Africans prior to this guy coming and discovering it and naming it that it already had a name by the indigenous people. The name being, and I could be mispronouncing it, Musi Eutunya. But now this particular name that was given by the indigenous people of that region to this waterfall is ignored or forgotten. And this is what he means when he says Afrocentrism, that it's the Africans and their understanding of what's taking place over there being dominant, not left to the margins of Europeans and other peoples, that now Europeans get to explain this is that, or that is this. No, it should be explained by the people who are indigenous to that land. That's basically what he's saying what Afrocentrism is. And to be quite honest, I don't have an issue with that. I don't think any Muslim has an issue with that, regardless if they be black or other than black, Arab or white or whatever the case may be. But then he says Arabism is just Arab culture and Arab culture. That's Arab culture and Arab language. So I guess he means that I'm steeped in Arab culture or Arab language, which is incorrect. I'm a black American living in America, right? Me wearing a thobe, like one individual left from an NOI member claimed that I was dressed like a 7th century Arab, which is downright laughable. 7th century Arabs wore what they call a rida and izar, and they wore turbans. This type of hat wasn't worn by Arabs of 7th century. And as far as we as Muslims are concerned, all Muslims don't wear thobes. I don't wear thobes every day of the week, but one of the reasons why I wear a thobe is because it distinguishes me from everybody else. As the Muslims are commanded to distinguish ourselves and not to imitate non-Muslims. And so much that one time I was wearing a thobe, I was in a phone shop, and a person, a guy, a street guy, he walks in, he sees me, and the first question he asks, "What's up, man, you Muslim?" I said, "Yes." And he extended his hand and shook my hand and said, "Respect." And this guy's a street guy. The Muslims, especially in the black community, amongst the people, we're not identified by wearing these garments by anything else except Islam and Muslim. When they see us, they automatically think, okay, he's Muslim. They don't think anything else. And that's one of the reasons why I wear the thobes on occasions, for that very purpose, to be distinguished, especially if I'm in LA. Especially if I'm in LA. It has to be known that I'm not a part of any of the street stuff that's going on, that I'm uniformed. You know who I am and what I'm about. I'm about Islam. I'm not about cripping and blooding. I could wear this red champion jacket in LA along with this thobe and this type of hat that I'm wearing, because I'm distinguished as a Muslim. Whereas if I was wearing a button-up something else, pants and something, I probably wouldn't have this on as to not be mistaken for somebody else. The point, though, at any rate, that's Arabism, but perhaps he meant Pan-Arabism. Perhaps he meant that. Pan-Arabism is a political and cultural movement that advocates for the unification of all Arab people into a single nation state. In other words, it's Arab unity for the sake of Arab unity, Arab upliftment or Arab supremacy, I guess in some cases. This is what Saddam Hussein was. He was a pan-Arabist, right? And here's the reality. The religion of Al-Islam doesn't condone this, because amongst the Arabs, although you have 90% of the Arabs being Muslim, you still have Arabs that are Christian, You still have Arabs that are from traditional religions prior to Islam, or I don't want to say prior to Islam, but religions that are non-Islamic and non-monotheistic, like the Yazidis, for instance, that are in, I believe, Iraq somewhere or somewhere around Syria, right? But you have them. You have the Druze. You have some that are some Zoroastrians, people who are descendants of Arabs that are in Persia now and that are Zoroastrians, and thus forth and so on. The point that I'm making, although they may be a small percentage, there are still some Arabs that are non-Muslims, and coming together, unifying based off this is un-Islamic. In so much that you have Arab scholars within Saudi Arabia that speak against this type of idea, because the Arab or Black Americans or whoever shouldn't unite based on just for the sake of outward appearance or ethnicity. No, we unite based off the truth. We unite based off guidance. That is the determining factor of how we gain unity, and thus forth and so on in Islam. So at any rate, so for him to say that I'm steeped in Arabism, and if he meant Pan-Arabism, then I would say this is incorrect. And the meanings of these things will have to be explained to people who talk like this. Obviously, you don't know what Arabism is, or you don't know what Pan-Arabism is. Muslims don't agree with this regardless if you're Arab or non-Arab. We don't agree with Pan-Arabism. And then Arabism is nothing more than Arabic culture. I am not an Arab. I'm a Black American. Although I like Arab food, I also like Indian food. I also like Mexican food. But to me, nothing tops the food that I was raised off of. You know, and that's just my personal opinion. Nothing tops the desserts that I was raised off of. That's just my personal opinion. And thus forth and so on. And speaking the Arabic language doesn't mean that you're now you're steeped in Arabism. Nor does practicing Islam mean that you're steeped in Arabism, because here's the reality. The religion of the Arabs was the worship of Lat and Uzza and Manat. And when Islam came, a lot of the Arabs tried to buck Islam in preference of the Arab religion, the worship of hundreds of different gods as intercessors or mediums with Allah. And on top of that, some of these out of the Arab religion, some of it was similar to some of the pagan African religions, calling on ancestors, people who can't hear you, dead or passed away. They can't hear you. They don't have the benefit to benefit you or bring harm to you. Calling on them. So I'm supposed to be Afrocentric, because the definition of Afrocentric, from what Asante said, I don't have a problem with. If Afrocentrism is simply the Africans being the ones that lead in explaining their narrative, this isn't Mount whatever, it's Mount Kilimanjaro. When Europeans went over there, start changing the names and stuff, and they take control of the narrative. No, this is Mount this, and this is Mount that, and this is such and such river, and thus forth and so on. Who has a problem with that? The problem is when these people talk like this, they're really stating or really trying to impose all things Africa on people like myself, on Black Americans, to the point that you end up becoming a worshiper of Amun-Ra, the so-called head god of the many Egyptian gods. And I don't know why some of them even single out the ancient Egyptians. I don't know why some of them put so much emphasis on Egyptology, when in reality this is just one culture out of multitudes of cultures in Africa. So why is this one being singled out? The point that I'm making is, you expect me to become a worshiper of Amun-Ra just simply because what you refer to as ancient black people practiced that. So I'm supposed to now leave off the religion of God, the creator of black people, white people, and everyone else, the creator of all of these cultures. I'm supposed to leave off his guidance and adopt this simply because you claim that ancestors from the same continent that we originated from over 500 years ago practiced this, and this is over this type of cultural practice is given preference over all the hundreds of other cultural practices on the continent. And this is why Dr. Umar, when he was giving his reasons why he left Islam, he looked like a fool, because he went and said that he was practicing Arab culture. Once again, some Afrocentrics would tell you the Arabian Peninsula is Africa. So if that's the case, then Arab culture is African culture. If that's the case, that this is the argument that they're using. So the point that I'm making is he stated that he left Islam because of this, and he wanted to practice African spirituality. What African spirituality are you practicing? There's thousands of cultures there. What African spirituality is being practiced here? Are we practicing the spirituality of, what is it, the southern Omotic tribes in Ethiopia? Are we practicing that? Because a part of their culture, and I could have mispronounced Omotic, I could have mispronounced that, Allah knows best, but a part of their culture is that when if a child's top teeth grows in first, that child is cursed, and he will curse the village. And so they will kill, and some of them they kill that child whose top teeth are come out first. I remember seeing the whole thing about it, a whole video on it on YouTube, how they have I can't recall the exact, like orphanages, not orphanages, but like, some type of rescue center. They had to outlaw them from killing the children. And so what some of them did, what the elders did, was, okay, if they're going to penalize us for killing these kids who are cursed and going to bring curses upon us, we'll just walk them out to the wilderness somewhere and leave them there to die. And these Ethiopians, the Ethiopians who are not upon that superstitious foolishness, have to rescue those children, and they have whole rescue centers of children from that particular tribe that were left to die by their elders because they believe that because their teeth were born from the top of their mouth first, on the top row first, that they were cursed, and they would bring about a curse upon the village or upon the town or upon the tribe. We're supposed to follow this? We're supposed to follow this? There's a lot of stupidity within the culture from those who are idol worshippers. Just like there was a lot of stupidity amongst the Arabs when they were stooped into idol worship. And so I'm supposed to abandon that the religion of God for that. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And this is the reality that the Muslims have to deal with them when they come with these stupid comments, right? When they come with these backwards, off the wall, dumb comments, this is how we have to address these guys boldly and unapologetically. But I want to deal with the extreme accusation and extreme stupidity of this person that referred to the Lord of the heavens and the earth as a racist God, the Lord and creator of all of mankind, that he described the Lord of the heavens and the earth with such a repugnant descriptive term. And this guy, this is anyway. When I'm going to read some of the statements of Allah to show, could this, I mean, you know, to even say a racist God, I mean, this is A'udhu Billah. Now, we go into Surah Al-Rum for the Muslims, because again, these are things that we want to keep in perspective. So Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He teaches us, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافُ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ وَأَلْوَانِكُمْ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِلْعَالِمِينَ. Allah states, and from His signs, the signs of His what? Of His magnificence, of His grandeur, of His existence. From His signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth. All, the heavens and the earth and all that you see within it, all of this is a sign for a capable designer, a capable creator, a knowledgeable creator. An accident doesn't create something like this that we see all around us with this different types of organizations and systems, from the ecosystem to other than that. This doesn't occur as on account of an accident, right? So He states, this is from His signs, the creation of the heavens and earth. And then He states what? And the differences in your languages and your colors, meaning the outward appearance, your colors, being a black man, a white man, a yellow man, a brown man, like this. He states, this is a sign of His existence and His supreme nature and His divinity, and thus forth and so on. And then He states, undoubtedly, and this is a sign for people that have what? That have knowledge. The ignorant, then it's not a sign for him, because he's too stupid to recognize what's directly in front of him. But the point that I'm making here is that Allah says this is a sign for His magnificence, His grandeur. What? The different colors and races of people. That He created all of this. He placed this in the earth. When you look at the black race alone, again, with different variations of brown, from the darkest to the lightest, but we all still have similar to the same features, wide noses, big lips, and like this. Every single human being on the earth has two eyes, a nose, lips, tongue, mouth, teeth, and like this. But then when you get into each particular race, then the features are specific. White people have thinner lips, you know, and sharper noses, for lack of better descriptions, and you guys know what I mean. Whereas black people have usually wider noses, thicker lips, and like this. Just looking at the black race, how many people considered to be black have walked the face of the earth since the creation of Adam? And every single black person that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala has created with the same similar features, He has made each and every single last individual's face distinguishable from the next. This is how, when you look at me, you know you're looking at Najeeb, but when you look at someone else, you know you're looking at Jack, Jill, Bob, Tom, or whoever else that may be out here. Because Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala has distinguished us despite the fact that I'm a black man and look very similar to other black people. This is from the grandeur, the magnificence, the divine knowledge and wisdom of Allah. This is an indication that He exists for those that have knowledge. For those that have knowledge. And this isn't a looking down at any race, putting down any race over the next. So how could anyone or thing that states this, you know, that states similar to this, be considered racist? How could Allah, who states this about the varying colors, be now have hatred for something that He created and be racist? But then Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He doesn't stop there. There are several verses that will disprove, when you go into the Quran itself, that this claim is stupid. It defies logic and reality, because this guy may not want to accept this, but you're saying that that what the Muslims worship is racist, and that's you consequently stating that God, the creator of the heavens and the earth, the one who sent, Noah, Abraham, all the way, from the varying prophets and messengers all the way to Muhammad, this is the God that we worship. You're saying the creator of the heavens and earth is racist. This is the tremendous statement that this fool made. Right? Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, he states, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. Undoubtedly, we created man in the best of modes and statures. There's no the distinguishment of what type of man is created in the best mode of statures. He didn't say the white man is created in the best modes and statures. He didn't say the yellow man. He didn't say man is created in the best modes of stature except the black man. He didn't say anything like this. But on the contrary, he said man is created in the best mode and stature. In another verse, he states, Ya ayyuhan nas, O mankind. He's addressing humanity. He says, Inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha. Undoubtedly, I have created you from a male and a female, Adam and Eve. وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا. And I have made you, or we have made you into tribes and nations that you all may get to know one another. إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. Undoubtedly, the most noble of you all with Allah is he who is most God-fearing, that has the most God consciousness, that has the most piety, that's built and based off fear of Allah, fear of God. This puts everybody on an equal playing field. This will now mean that based off your lineage, you're not better than the next person based off your language, which is a debunking of the foolishness the Hebrew Israelites say. Or whatever race you may be, that you are now on a better standard or degree because of your race. On the contrary, everybody's on the equal playing field, and the only one that is brought closer to Allah in degrees, ranks, and levels as it relates to nobility is one who is God-fearing. And this person is not God-fearing by making the type of statement that he made. This guy is shameless. This guy is arrogant to even state this about the Lord of the heavens and the earth. And if he dies on this, give him glad tidings of defeat when he meets Allah. If he dies with this understanding, then I give him glad tidings of defeat when he meets the Lord of the heavens and the earth. Because this is ignorant. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he stated, Inna Allah la yanduru ila suwarikum wa amwalikum walakin yanduru ila qulubikum wa a'malikum. He stated, undoubtedly Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala does not look to your outward appearance nor your wealth. On the contrary, he looks to your heart and your actions. He looks to your heart and your actions. These teachings are not anti-race, anti-a-particular race. They're not anti-a-particular lineage. They're not anti-a-particular tribe. Everybody's on the same playing field. But whoever puts forth efforts to be brought closer to Allah, they are the ones that are considered to be superior regardless of what their race may be or what their ethnicity may be, and thus forth and so on. So these types of people can put forth these weak arguments, but they hold no water. They hold no weight. These arguments hold no weight. They defy logic, they defy the truth, and thus forth and so on. And so I just wanted to present this, like I said, to Black Americans that go throughout the Black community that run into people like this. That these things need to be presented to them and clapping back at the foolishness that they state. And Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala knows best. And with that, Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu ala man ittaba al-huda.